Barcelona fans, you may be thinking as of now that the season is over, that Barcelona's season is done, that we won't be able to watch the beautiful Hansi Flick ball until next season. That is the truth, that is the case. And I bet you're thinking that your job is done, that all the energy, the love and support that you were giving to these players all season long, you can rest. You can take a rest now. I bet that's what you're thinking. But I can assure you that the job is not done. We still have one more in us. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the Champions League final is upon us. And there is one person that we must hate watch for this final. Public enemy number one for every single Barcelona fan. You know who I'm talking about. Ousmane Dembele. We must not forgetteth what that snake ballet did to us. How he just left us in the mud. How he just slapped Xavi in the face. Like he didn't just revive his career. We must never forget. He is now on the verge of winning the Champions League. And potentially, no, most certainly, the balloon to all if PSG win the final. So we must unite one last time. Gather all our energy. Just like Goku gathered all the energy when he was getting his ass beat by Frieza. And support. I know it hurts. But we must support Inter Milan. I know it hurts to say. But we must. We must. We cannot allow Dembele to disrespect us the way he did. And on top of all of that, remember people that if PSG win, if Dembele wins, we're cooked. So I urge you, please, this one last time, have the ultimate hate watch of your lives. I beggeth. Yes, people, the Champions League final is finally upon us. PSG versus Inter Milan for the 24-25 Champions League final. And yeah, I could definitely say I'm excited for this match as much as Barcelona are not in it. Why did I mention Barcelona? As much as Barcelona, unfortunately, are not in the final, which sucks because I think PSG Barcelona would have been an incredible final. I'm still excited for this matchup. Looking back at the Europa League final and the Conference League final, I'm expecting a whole lot better. And I think we will get a whole lot better because we're seeing two of the best teams in Europe go at each other. And I think it's going to be a very interesting, game because of the storylines that include in this matchup and because of the style of football that both teams play. You can definitely say that they're polar opposites. Obviously, the storylines are that Inter Milan could potentially go trophyless if they don't win this Champions League final. They just lost the league to Napoli and they got knocked out the Coppa Italia to AC Milan. So they don't want to go trophyless. They want to try and win their fourth Champions League ever in their history. So this is the one game to really prove it and show it that, their whole season wasn't a failure. And when it comes to PSG, this is their first Champions League ever. This could potentially be their first Champions League ever. So it'd be a nice story for them and their fans and for their history. And on top of that, they could potentially win the treble, which is, wow, it's crazy to say. It's very crazy to say. Who would have expected that PSG, out of all teams, could have won the treble? And they're going to definitely cement their names in the history books as one of the few teams that are able to do that because, doing that is not an easy task at all. So if they do it, credit to them. Obviously, you guys just saw me give a whole rant about wanting PSG to lose this because of Dembele, and that's definitely the case. I dislike Dembele for reasons that are pretty clear that of the way that he left Barcelona. That's the main reason I would like to see PSG lose this. If PSG didn't have Dembele, I would like them to win this. Rivalry aside, when it comes to recent years between Barca and PSG, them eliminating us, humiliating us a couple times. Besides that, I see football in a more deeper sense, for the fans, for the happiness of the fans. And PSG fans are an incredible fan base. They have such a wonderful fan base who support their team with all their hearts, and just seeing a team win their first ever major trophy is, a great sight to see. When Tottenham beat Manchester United, I wanted them to win more on that fact because they wanted to win that European trophy, bring a trophy after well over a decade that their fans have been suffering. It was nice to see them celebrate and be happy. You know, when the fans cry and just show their happiness, it's nice to see, even if you're rivals, right? When Crystal Palace beat Manchester City in the FA Cup, it was nice to see. Like, these things are so good to see, you know, especially for football. It's good for football. It's good for the fans who've been suffering for years. And I would like that for PSG, but unfortunately for you guys had Dembele, so I definitely want you guys to lose this match. I dislike Dembele because of the way that he left Barcelona. I think the way that he left us was very, very, very heartbreaking for sure, because I'm never going to negate the fact that Ousmane Dembele is a great player. Ever since he joined Barcelona, we saw the potential. In Borussia Dortmund, we saw the potential. He could definitely be a great player. A Ballon d'Or worthy player for sure, like he's doing it for this season. And it was just so frustrating the way that he left because, again, under Xavi, it was definitely his best season that he ever produced for Barcelona. I wanted to see more of that, but you know, he left us. And I'm always going to say that he left us for the money. I'm never going to say that he left us for a better project or for a better team, because at that time, PSG didn't have a better team than us. I'm never going to say that, and ever say that he left us because of those reasons. I'm always going to say it's because of the money, because there was a point that Dembele was negotiating with the club to renew, but like his agent said, they won a Ballon d'Or salary. Barcelona at that time broke as hell. We were never going to give him that. So, yeah, whatever. Just ignoring that fact. But overall, the player and the talent that Dembele is, I'm never going to negate that. You know, he's done incredible for PSG this season. He's definitely been one of the main reasons that PSG are in the final. And he's showing his level. You can say for sure he's hitting his prime. You know, this is the age that he's at. That's definitely the prime ages for sure. But just the fact that he's there, I want PSG to lose this match. So obviously, I'm going to support Inter Milan. Now, besides the fact that I want Ousmane Dembele to lose this match and see him cry after the match because the way that he smirked at us last year at the Bunch after PSG knocked us out. I definitely want to see a frown this time. Let's talk about the game. You know, how I think this game is going to go, who I think is going to win, you know, potentially a scoreline. We could definitely say that this is going to be a very interesting match, because when we look at both teams, they're very, you know, polar opposites of the style of football that they play, the profiles that they have, the systems they play. They're very different, you know. Inter Milan are a very defensive side who like to hit you on the counterattack, use their wingbacks consistently, you know, just play that 1-2 football that is so efficient. When they get into the final third, you're pretty much cooked if you leave them any type of space, because the likes of Lautaro Martinez, Thuram, give them a chance and they're going to take it, right? Even their fullbacks are just so dangerous, they're so efficient. Like, they're very efficient unit. You can definitely say they're very robotic with the style of football that they play. It's not like they have creative beasts or, you know, these individuals who can just turn up out of nowhere like like PSG have with Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia. They don't have those kind of players, but it's just the way that they play as a team is so dangerous. While on the other hand, PSG are very stylistic, dynamic, very much have creative players all over the pitch. You know, very dangerous players who can create chances for themselves if needed. They like to be on the front foot. They like to hold on to possession. You know, they're very different. And you could definitely say this is similar to the final between Inter Milan and Manchester City, where Manchester City in this case would be PSG, right? You could definitely say that. So when I compare that, going into this final, I'm giving it a little bit more in favor of Inter Milan, and not just because I want Ousmane Dembele to lose this. It's because when we look at PSG and Inter Milan have a more mature team, more experienced team compared to PSG. PSG have a very young team, and these players at Inter Milan have already been to a final. So experience is definitely going to, matter for this kind of game. You know, Inter Milan have been to the final as a recently 2 years ago. So they're going to want to improve from the mistakes that they made in that match, not create the same errors and, overall just get over the finish line. Just look at back what they did 2 years ago, because you can definitely say that PSG and City are similar with the way that they play. I think more Manchester City are very more systematic for sure, but PSG, are very similar. But overall, I think Inter Milan is just gonna, just do better, not, make the same mistakes in the past and get over the finish line this time and become champions. I think this final could definitely put on pressure for the PSG players, because they're a very young squad with the likes of Doué, Neves, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, Kvaratskhelia. They're a very young team, and a lot of them have never experienced a Champions League final like this. Even when you look at a final overall in a big European final, they've never experienced this. I think the only player that has experienced a final in that team was Marquinhos, and maybe Donnarumma. I think Donnarumma was in the final 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, too. Hakimi as well. But besides that, most of the players have not really experienced it. So they could definitely play a factor that they'll feel the pressure and make mistakes, be prone to mistakes. And Inter Milan know as much that these players have never experienced it. So they might want to put even more pressure on them. And, I think marginally Inter Milan can get the win. When we look at their campaign this season, they've both done great jobs and be very resistant, having to turn up when they needed to turn up, players stepping up when they need to step up, and two main players for both sides that have definitely stepped up and are one of the major reasons that they've gotten into the final are their goalkeepers. I think this game we're going to see a big emphasis on the importance of their goalkeepers, like we've seen in prior games. Obviously, when it comes to PSG, Donnarumma stepping up against Arsenal in that second leg where he was just incredible, making world-class saves, keeping PSG in the game, not letting them suffer, not letting them go down, not allowing Arsenal to make the comeback. Spectacular match. Summer against Barcelona, even though he got scored on a lot of times, like he got scored on like 6 different times, in those crucial moments where we could have killed off the game or we could have made the tie during the second leg in extra time, he stepped up. He made crucial saves and allowed Inter Milan to get to the final. So I think for this match, these two are going to be a big emphasis because when we see the style that they play, Inter Milan, as much as they're going to be defensive, they're still going to suffer a little bit, especially if you have that difference maker like Adoue and Kvaratskhelia, who can definitely create chances for themselves and cause danger for themselves, make chances out of nowhere. Like Lamine Yamal was against Inter. He was the main guy that was creating chances out of nowhere. When we look at their midfield, the likes of Fabian, Vitinha, they're very aggressive, they're very attacking, so they would definitely cause danger. But when we look at PSG now, PSG are not going to want to go too much on the front foot because you give Inter Milan even the slightest opportunity to hit you on the counter, you're cooked. Trust me, I'm a Barcelona fan, so I would know as much. You're cooked. Obviously, Barcelona play the high line and PSG don't, but even so, they like to use their fullbacks a lot with Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, and those guys are a lot, involved a lot. I don't know how much they're going to be really involved for this matchup just because Inter Milan are going to be very defensive, but even so, they still get used a lot, so they might be left, PSG's defense might be left vulnerable if their two fullbacks are not there. So PSG are going to have to be resistant defensively. They're going to have to be very smart on the ball because one thing that could be assured is that they're going to hold on to possession much more than Inter Milan. And Inter Milan don't care. They don't care about holding possession. They invite pressure. They want that to happen because the moment they get that chance, you're cooked. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring final like 5-4, 3-2, 6-1, whatever you want to call it, like Barcelona have been basically doing this whole season. I think it's going to be very close. I think both teams are going to create a lot of opportunities against each other. And again, like a big emphasis on the goalkeeper stepping up when they need to step up. And overall, I think it's going to be just slightly, marginally in Inter Milan's favor, and they're probably going to win it not by 1 goal for sure. I don't think 2 or more. And I'm going to predict that the final scoreline will be 2-1. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to say Inter Milan to win 2-1. And the goal scorers are going to be Lautaro Martinez and Çalhanoğlu. And for Inter Milan, and for PSG, I'll give it to Kvaratskhelia. Kvaratskhelia is going to score the goal. That's how I think. That's what I think is going to go. But yeah, you could definitely say this is going to be a very entertaining final. Hopefully, it's a very entertaining final. When we really look at this as Barcelona fans, like I said, we're going to have to hate watch PSG because at this point, the only thing we're really fighting for is for one of our players to win the Ballon d'Or. So if we want one of our players to win the Ballon d'Or, we need PSG to lose this match because it's so certain that if PSG win this, Ousmane Dembele is going to win the Ballon d'Or. Even though I don't think he's the best footballer on their club because I think the likes of Kvaratskhelia is one of the main reasons he's had a major impact for PSG to get to the final and be successful as they've been in the second half, because we can definitely say in the first half of the season, PSG were struggling, especially in Europe. So Kvaratskhelia has definitely had a major impact, but at the same time, Dembele has definitely stepped up. I think Dembele started getting pretty much the big emphasis on the Ballon d'Or run when he stepped up and when he scored those back-to-back hat-trick against Brest and I think Stuttgart. Like, all right, but not great teams, but I think that's when he started really getting that emphasis. But then he started scoring important goals as well. So if PSG win it, Dembele wins Ballon d'Or. If Inter win it, there's no Inter player that deserves the Ballon d'Or. I'm sorry, there's just not one. Lautaro Martinez, nowhere near. he's not been the same player that he was for last season. And when we look at the trophy cabinet, they haven't won the league. I'm pretty sure they won La Copa Italia last season too. They haven't won it either. I think with Lautaro Martinez, the main reason he got shots for last season for winning Balón de Oro is because of the Copa America run. You know, the importance he had in the Copa America, but there's no international trophies to fight for this Balón de Oro. So yeah, this is not really going to help him at all for this one. So, yeah, there's no Inter Milan player that deserves it. We've been seeing it all season long when we look at the rankings that no Inter Milan player has been, mentioned at all because there's not been that one individual who's really stepped up, who's really shown that they're the best player in the world. There's not one. So if Inter Milan win it, the debate is open for who can win the Balón de Oro. I think ultimately it would come down to Ousmane Dembele and Lamine Yamal being the 1 and 2, just because Dembele got to the final and Lamine Yamal has been one of the best players in the world. You could put Rafinha in there if you want, but I think it's going to come down to Lamine Yamal and Dembele. And if Inter win the final, I think Yamal will win it. Even the Nations League game against Spain and France could definitely, hold some weight on that. Just see if that can influence it as well. Because if Yamal wins and knocks out, France, even more of an emphasis for sure. But hopefully it goes in the way of Inter Milan. We're going to have to say Forza Inter for this match. Barcelona fans, just be ready for it. Unfortunately, we have to. And yeah, hopefully we watch Inter Milan lift the trophy at the end. And months later, we see Lamine Yamal hold up the Balón de Oro. Hopefully the script is like that. Hopefully God put the script like that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I will be streaming this match, so make sure to tune in for that. I will definitely be going live to hate watch this, a little hate along. So definitely tune in for that here on my YouTube or on my Twitch or on my Kick. I'll have them all in the link down in the description below. So make sure to tune in for that. And yeah, I'm excited for this, guys. How are you guys feeling about this? How do you guys feeling about this final? Are you excited for this final? Because I haven't seen much hype around this, just because mostly on Twitter. When I go on Twitter, I'm seeing more Barcelona fans, Real Madrid fans, Premier League fans, not very much PSG fans or Inter Milan fans. So, I don't think this final has gotten much hype as probably if Barcelona were in the final, would have gotten, right? But overall, how are you guys feeling about this final? Who do you think is going to win? How do you think the scoreline is going to be? Who's going to score? Let me know all those things down in the comments below. And Barcelona fans, again, we must unite as one to not allow Dembele with this final. I think like it's in our hands, but energy can transmit. Energy can transmit. So give all your energy to Inter Milan and their players. Yeah, let's hope for the best. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for every time we upload. Share to your friends that love football, and I'll see you guys on the next video, whenever that is. Much love, take care, and peace.